Namaste. In our continued bliss of enjoying Sri Krishna's names in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we are going to talk about a very important name today. But more importantly, let's understand the A factor. Now, what is this A? A, as we all know, is the first alphabet that we always write in any of the Indian languages that we learn, and everything starts with A. Sri Krishna in the same Bhagavad Gita says, Aksharanam akarosmi. In the Aksharas, I am the A, alphabet A, is what he says. Now, he has done two things here. We talk about the A factor, he also used the word Akshara. Akshara is the name that we are going to talk in this episode. Akshara, as we know, in this context, when Lord Krishna uses, he uses from the context of an alphabet, but Akshara has got many in-depth meanings into it. Now, what is Akshara and how does the A factor going to work is what we are going to learn in this episode. Now, Shara and add the A factor, it becomes Akshara. So, let's understand what is Shara. Shara is one that is perishable or one that perishes easily. Akshara, moment you add the A factor, it becomes the opposite of Shara, it becomes imperishable. So, let's look at Akshara as imperishable as Arjuna addresses Sri Krishna in 11th chapter, 17th sloka, 18th sloka and 37th sloka. 11th chapter, 18th sloka and 37th sloka, Arjuna addresses Sri Krishna as Akshara, and he also uses an additional adjective saying Paramam in the 17th sloka, in the 18th sloka. Sorry. So in this chapter, in the 11th chapter, as you see, I think when we look at the watch and say 11, we should all get excited because the entire Bhagavad Gita's core happens in the 11th chapter in the Vishwarupa Darshana. There is so much that we can dwell and have that Anubhava Dhara Visaya in the last week's episode of Aprameya. It's all about Anubhava, and 11th chapter, it comes out so beautifully because Arjuna, through Arjuna, actually Sri Krishna passes a lot of messages to us. He keeps Arjuna as an example, but actually he's talking to all of us as Jivatma, where he shows his Vishwarupa, and Arjuna is also seeing a lot of things to give us the kind of vision that he had. It's like replaying a fantastic match that we saw last year or last 10 years back or 93 World Cup finals. We come back and so excitement. So what Arjuna has seen, this is what we are seeing right now in this 11th chapter, particularly the Vishwarupa and the various aspects of Sri Krishna, because till then Arjuna himself says, I have treated you as a friend, I have treated you as my charioteer, I have treated you as my servant, but here you are, hey Krishna, in your Vishwarupa form, how the magnanimity of you, I'm just going to get a glimpse of it is what he's saying. And that is exactly what we are also having this Anubhava through this Akshara. Now what is Akshara? Again we said imperishable. Let's do a lot of relative things. Unopened milk packet will have a life for about a couple of hours. So how it's Shara, its life is just 2 hours. So what do we do to make it Akshara? We boil it. So it extends by a day, we keep it in the refrigerator, probably another day it becomes Akshara. But what happens then? It will still be a Shara because the next morning it may not be good to use. So immediately we try to make it into a curd. Curd lives for another 2-3 days, right? So we make it again, that part of milk becomes Shara, now curd becomes Akshara. Now curd will also have a limited life. So what do? We then churn it out, make buttermilk. So we make it, curd becomes Shara, buttermilk becomes Akshara. And from there we take butter. Butter becomes more Akshara, then all these things become Shara. And how do we make butter Shara and make it something else Akshara? We make ghee out of it. That's why you see the dairy is always used as a brilliant example in the entire Sanatana Dharma. We can learn so much from here. Everything has a relative period of life and that transforms. So let's come into living things like an insect which lives for a few seconds to a mammal which lives for few million years or whatever we have listened or we have learnt in biology and all those things. In comparison to all the small insects or animals like dogs and cats, a man lives longer. A human lives longer in compared to all these things, but lives shorter compared to the Devas. The Devas live shorter in compared to Brahma. Brahma lives very short compared to the Akshara, the Krishna himself, because Krishna is indestructible. Everybody else has a life, Akshara. The only thing, the degree varies between few minutes to few yugas. That's the only difference, but still everybody is Shara. But then come to the root of Sanatana Dharma. In fact, I used to tell people that anyone who believes body and Atma are different is a Sanatana Dharma. That's the basic tenet of Sanatana Dharma, where Atma is eternal, Akshara, body is Shara, is temporary. The Atma takes the body based on the karma. So one who understands this will understand the basic tenets of Sanatana Dharma or Hindu religions much better. So now the Atma is Akshara, but it goes around in the times of birth, death and rebirth. So that part of process, it goes through a process of death, which is Akshara through the body, but Atma still remains Akshara. But how do you get the Ananda is because when this Atma attains the golden feet of Sri Krishna, it becomes more Akshara, along with the real Akshara it merges. So that's what various Acharyas have expounded using the Vedas. Madhva Guru, the Madhvacharya, explains Akshara beautifully. He says Ksha means perishable, Ra is one who gives it. Who gives it? The Akara factor that we talked about. So one who gives the eternal happiness is Akshara. Who else it is? Is Krishna himself. So Lord Krishna blesses us with what actually we see as an eternal happiness, which is the moksha or the liberation from the process of cycle of birth, death and rebirth, where we merge with the ultimate Akshara, one who is beyond all these things. The real imperishable, the real indestructible Akshara is Lord Sri Krishna. In the same Mahabharata, in Mahabharata again, and you keep reading it and learning it from elders, there is so much to learn. Yaksha Prashna is one thing we strongly recommend, as much as Viduraniti. Within Viduraniti, Bhagavad Gita and Yaksha Prashna are three independent components of Mahabharata that we should all spend as much time learning and sharing it to the next generation. In Yaksha Prashna, as we all know, a voice stops Dharma, Yudhishthira, and asks him a lot of questions, roughly about 25 questions if I'm right, I'll confirm that. And that number of questions, one thing the Yaksha asks Yudhishthira is, what amazes you in this world? And Yudhishthira smilingly says, we see everything as Shara around us. Everything perishes, everything changes, everything gets destroyed, even we die. But humans, when they even look at people dying, they think they're going to be here eternally.
त्वमक्षरं परमं वेदितव्यं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानं त्वमव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे कस्माच्च तेनन्न मेरन्महात्मन् गरीयसे ब्रह्मणोऽप्यादिकर्त्रे अनन्तदेवेश जगन्निवास Tvamaksharam sadasat param yat.
Yeah. So in the 11th chapter, we see Arjuna address Sri Krishna as Akshara in the 18th sloka and the 37th sloka. He uses the word very importantly, Paramam Aksharam. That is what beyond Akshara. Because when we say indestructible, when we say equate Jivatma is indestructible, but we are also saying Krishna is the same as Akshara? No. Krishna established in 15th chapter that I am way beyond all these things, and that is what Arjuna is also giving a hint in the 11th chapter itself when it says Paramam Aksharam, you are beyond all these things, beyond normal Akshara and Shara. So that is very important to know. While we worship Sri Krishna as Akshara, as indestructible, but he is way beyond those normal facts of destructible and undestructible, which is established by Sri Krishna himself later. And we also, another important thing that we can, so we saw the example of body and Atma. One factor of the body I think we should discuss here. The eyes are called Akshi, right? Why is it called Akshi? Because among all the body parts, eyes are indestructible. That is why we donate eyes. So that's why it's also referred in Sanskritam as Akshi. So that is why we donate, we share it so that it lives longer than the body itself. So this is a small relevance to our current day things, but the point here is 11th chapter, 37th sloka and the 18th sloka where Arjuna addresses Sri Krishna as Akshara. So let us worship Sri Krishna as Akshara and Sri be blessed.
Madhava Achyuta Krishna Hare Rishikesha Kesava Govinda Vasudeva Bhagavan Janardana